In a few moments, you will have an experience which will seem completely real. It will be the result of your subconscious fears transformed to your conscious awareness. You have 5 seconds to terminate this tape. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is going on, everybody? How is it going tonight? Thanks again for joining me for another BG-Cast Wednesday live podcast. Tonight, we have a pretty special show lined up, and I'm looking forward to sitting down with my two guests who they've both been on the show before. You both know them. But nonetheless, guys, I want to welcome all of the new followers over on Rumble. I want to welcome all of the new followers on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for joining the BG-Cast family, coming in and tuning in and hanging out with me every Wednesday. Right now, things are getting a little interesting, you could say. I do feel that in a lot of ways, a lot of us content creators are kind of under attack at this point in time. And this is why we're doing this episode tonight. I have experienced it myself. I mean, I was on Typical Skeptic podcast with Rob Khalil last Friday. We started talking about it a little bit. And, I was on a podcast last week, the week before that, Don Rogers of March 4th Productions with Frankie Fearless. And we brought up the 1953 Geneva Frequency Convention. And we were talking about the weaponization of music and frequency. And we got a strike, or Don got a strike for literally just us talking about the 1953 Geneva Frequency Convention. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's when they decided to make 440 hertz the official frequency for a lot of our radio bandwidth, a lot of our music. We all know that 440 hertz is not a great frequency, but nonetheless, we just posted a link to the document and he got a strike for it. So I honestly feel that something really strange is going on right now. And I'm going to bring on my two guests to chat about this. Hopefully our third one will join us. We don't know where he is, but nonetheless, let's bring on Mr. Official Urban Josh. He has been on the show before. Guys? Good, man.
Yeah, pleasure to be back here.
Absolutely, man. It's always good to have you on. And we have the nerd herself, the nerd in charge, Jen. What is up? How's it going? Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. You've got great topics lately. I'm excited to chat.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm calling BG-Cast Season 3 the White Album of BG-Cast. Nice. And that's just kind of what I'm calling it at this point, because I'm experimenting a little, man. I love talking about the spiritual stuff. I love talking and breaking down those topics too. But, I've been doing this 3 years now. So I just kind of want to, fuck around and find out a little bit, and we're going to see where it takes us, But nonetheless, guys, let's kind of kick this off. I know the both of you have been experiencing some interesting things. Your time on social media and your time as content creators. I mean, right now, I feel like we're kind of being shoved into a corner. I feel like a lot of us who are original, a lot of us who are speaking without a narrative, I feel like a lot of us who are, trying to deliver truth in the best format that we can, it seems like we're being shoved into these corners with limited visibility. I mean, let's even bring up the whistleblower ghettos and things like that. There was a guy who posted on X. I'll bring up the photo here in a little bit, but I know a lot of people have been having issues with sex bots too, and this is another method of filtration. So, Urban, why don't you start off, man? What kind of stuff have you been experiencing? Because, by the way, the new podcast is awesome. So, I definitely want you to let everybody in on it at the end of the show. But sure. What have you been experiencing, man? Because, I feel like a lot of us at this point in time are being silenced.
Yeah, really the only thing I can say for sure is that there's just a massive flooding of artificial intelligence. We call them DARPA bots, mainly because it really does appear that all of your Facebooks and your Googles and stuff like that, all this data harvesting really was pioneered out of DARPA. And so these bots are functioning as, I guess you could almost compare it to a bridle on society. It's like they've put a saddle on these groups of people, and now they're steering them around. And it's like, if I want to make you think of something, if I want to put a thought in your head, the best way to do it would be to bring you into a room and surround you, and just so many subliminal ways surround you. For instance, you're going to come on a magic show, and it's like you're going to choose a random color. And so what you didn't know is the waiting room you've been waiting in for like an hour, I've strategically placed, like, let's just say blue. And so now, I've increased my odds significantly that subliminally you're going to just choose blue because it's the color you've been seeing like for a long time. And so that's what they're doing with these bots. So if I say something and let's just say it counters the official narrative, I'm not saying that I'm right, just saying, let's say that I bring up an idea, a question that shouldn't be asked. All of a sudden, what you'll notice is most people on the internet can't be bothered to read or write more than a paragraph now. So all of a sudden, these accounts, and they look real, come out of the woodwork, and they just go at you. Sometimes they try to bully you, and they don't bully you. They'll have these huge, long responses, and you could just, if you have common sense, it's written by AI, because there's like 4 of these accounts, and they all like, and it's a big social conditioning Skinner box. And so that's what these accounts are doing, is they can surround you with all these people who are telling you what to believe. And it's that psychology experiment where they brought one guy in, but then the rest of like the other 4 people in the room with them were actors. And
yes,
they said, what line is the longest? And everyone would choose the most obviously wrong answer. And so the one real guy's looking around like, are these people crazy? But sadly, I don't know exactly how much, but it was like an overwhelming majority of the real people would conform to the group. And so that's what this is. And these bots come in all kinds of different shapes, sizes. And yeah, these porn sex bots, I had to turn off my DMs on X because it was just constantly all day long. I would get these, go through and block, just, so
the best part is they're like, I am lonely. I'm from other country.
Oh,
like you want to help me come to America? And I'm like, oh my goodness. But no, I'm with you, man. I do think I've seen that experiment you're talking about. I think they were all sitting at a desk or something like that. And, they all purposely chose the wrong answer.
I'll just look
but
it up. Let's see.
Yeah, the experiment was to showcase, though, that people will go with the groupthink, though, in order to be accepted or to feel accepted by a collective. But Jen, I know you, based on the conversations we've all had, you've experienced some very strange things yourself. So why don't you enlighten us just a little bit on what you've been going through on the back end, especially with your business?
Oh, Lord, everything is all kinds of crazy up and down. It's an interesting scenario. You talk about groupthink. That's where I don't fit in so much. I don't try to groupthink. And what's funny is because of the whatever's, the undiagnosed whatever in my brain, I don't know how to groupthink usually. So what happens is I won't jump on the bandwagon, and then I don't realize why all of these things are happening. But what I do for my job with my business is I study SEO, I study data, I study all different kinds of things related to like business. How can I reach more target audience for every industry, not just skincare? And so it's hard for me not to see some of these things that should be working, should be, 10% of your audience gets these views or whatever it is. And those aren't happening. And then you see certain people talk about the same thing. Sometimes it's a copy pasted post that they grabbed from you and they skyrocket. Why are they allowed to talk about it? And so I've seen that happen on my accounts, friends' accounts, I have friends who have 90,000 followers and they'll get 200 views on a post, but I have maybe 200 followers. I can talk about the same topic and I'll get 7,000 views randomly. Why are they showing certain people at certain times? And I don't think I think that's programmed in. I think there's we talk about these bots that happen. I haven't been able to find out that it's when you say this word or this topic. It's seemingly random, but it's seemingly when you're like hovering over a really good point, immediately those are the likes that you get. So
Exactly.
they're programming that into the algorithm that if these people like your accounts, you're probably shady, so we need to suppress your content. How are they programming those bots to hit the right people? Because obviously certain accounts aren't getting hit with them, or it's not dinging them, right? So where is the rubric? Who's programming that? And where have they thought that through to where this word or this keyword or hashtag is going to cause this avenue of people to be deplatformed? While if these people use it or talk about it in this way, they will skyrocket. And that happened with the GATE program. We were talking about a couple of the whistleblowers who are now talking about it, and they're just able to get billions of views, and everyone's talking about them and sending the videos to me. But I get deplatformed. So it's interesting.
I would completely agree with you. I do. It's strange, the method that they're using when they're doing this, because I mean, you look at these people and you look at, how they're skyrocketing, and you're being deplatformed. And this is why I feel like in some ways, like we have talked about before, there is some kind of controlled opposition going on. They're either being the ones that are allowed to relay the information, or they're being, contracted to relay the information. Because the number one thing that we've seen, especially with alternative media turning out to be the way it is, and the conspiracy community and conspiracy theories, at least the surface level aspect of them, becoming mainstream. Back in the day when we were talking about that happening, we thought this would be a fantastic thing, but now we kind of see the ulterior motive behind it. They want to control that narrative themselves. So, but nonetheless, we have the official oven in the room. He has joined us. What's up, Stove? How are you doing tonight? His mic's muted right now. No sweat. Oh, okay. There we
Now
go.
he's got a face. Here we go.
There we go. What's up, Stove? How's it going?
Hey guys, it's all good. I was just having issues. It kept saying no mic, no camera. Website's a bit buggy, but it's working for now.
Good deal.
I hear you.
I hear you, man. We hear you, man. Well, thanks for being here, dude. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it completely. So I was just chatting with Urban and Jen over here about some of the stuff they've been experiencing as far as the deplatforming, the whistleblower ghettos, the shadow bans that we're experiencing. And we're looking at other people who seem to be relaying the same information or potentially even taking it from us and skyrocketing. I know you yourself had an issue with your account over some stuff too, man. Do you mind kind of enlightening us a little bit on that?
So I had actually written a post about something that's currently kind of blowing up on X again, which is the amount of predators that are in the science fiction community, the science fiction writers community. And soon as I wrote that, my account was permanently banned within a couple of hours. I had to file probably 6 or 7 appeals, and they wouldn't give me my account back until I deleted those posts. And it was a permanent ban with the whole, if you make a new account, we'll ban that too.
Oh my goodness, dude.
There are very clearly topics that they don't want you talking about,
Well, because I remember too, because I was trying to reach out to you about this, and I remember Urban told me that your account had been basically destroyed and they came after it. And then I reached out to you on the Alter one. If you don't mind, I mean, dude, I what you stated in that post is 100% correct. People don't understand how the predator aspect of things with these individuals. I mean, it literally seeps into every single arm, not only of the entertainment industry, we're looking at every single arm of government federally, and it's even, I've had people on the show before, it even seeps down into state and local governments, man. I mean, this is something that's big, dude. And I mean, you have definitely been blowing the lid off of it along with other people I see. And I just find it so crazy. I mean, you have a lot of these other top people talking about this. So why target somebody like you? And that's like the biggest question I think we're going to be asking here tonight. I mean, I've experienced some interesting things. I was I was chatting with Jen and Urban a little bit. I definitely know people are watching me 100%. I got confirmation of that. So I was actually commenting on if anybody out here knows who Ben Davidson is. He was on the show back in season 1. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't agree with the direction he's taken as of this time, but I still have a world of respect for the guy. He was one of my first big guests. But I was commenting on there, and this guy came up. Now, he's like a head guy at a lot of alternative media networks. I don't exactly remember the name. It was like about 6 to 8 months ago. And he basically commented under my post. He was like, you know, you're such a fucking fence sitter. Why don't you just pick a side and roll with it? And I remember, like, you know, I'm like, all right, I'm going to troll this guy. I'm going to have a little bit of fun because he's being super weird and negative towards me. So I started kind of trolling him. I'm like, oh, yeah, so you pay a lot of attention to me then. Like, you must know like all of the stuff I talk about. You must know all of the stuff I'm about then. And he goes, yeah, I listened to your little vague, you know, discussions and your spiritual woo-woo stuff and all of that. And I'm like, okay, so like this dude doesn't follow me. I don't know him, but he's basically following all of these major alt media accounts. He's you know, he's works for like an alt media company at the same time. But I've encountered very interesting things like this, and what's been getting really really crazy lately is the sex bots thing. And one of the things I've been theorizing for a long time now is that some of these bigger accounts too, you know, I brought up the Krasenstein brothers. I don't know why you follow me, Ed Krasenstein. I don't know why, but at the same time, I'm going to roll with it. But anytime I go to, like, he was talking about the other day on how the conservatives are trying to put a lot of these illegal immigrants in camps, right? But then I have a meme. I think I sent it to you guys too in the group chat. I'm not sure. I know I sent it over to Josh, but you know, it was basically about 3 to 4 years ago. They wanted to put everybody who didn't want to get the vaccine in a camp. So I'm like, so I posted that meme. And I was like, really? Because about like 3 to 4 years ago, you wanted all of us put in camps because we didn't want to follow the mandate. And then, dude, within like 2 seconds of posting it, like 4 sex bots liked it, just out of the blue, man. So I'm even convinced at this point in time that you know, that some of these high level accounts, we're talking like millions of followers, when somebody makes a good case against what they're trying to say, or provides a very convincing counter argument to their narrative, they use these operatives, these bots, to come in and I guess you could say dilute it and, you know, shuffle it into a dark corner of X itself.
Let me butt in real quick. Just
yeah, of course. Yeah, go ahead.
This made me think of something. What's going on? So imagine if they could, and you know, this hypothetically is very easy to do from a programming standpoint. So just set up a system, and I think it's a heuristic. Why are our posts being targeted? I think it's because they can build these bigger pictures on us. Like, I don't think they're just looking at us on Twitter. I think that they can literally, like, oh, this person's thinking outside of the box. And this thing is not just one I think all the platforms at the very top of this thing are probably connected, at least on a government Patriot Act standpoint. But the reason I kind of interrupted is because on X,
God, man, you're good.
There's a new premium feature. You got to have the highest tier of premium, but it's called Radar. And it says be the very first to spot trends with Radar. So you can use a query for keywords, monitor keywords, visualize trends, and real-time metrics. So they are monitoring these keywords. And I think it's all tied in with our generalized profile that they built.
Well, If I might, when you say they're monitoring keywords, my brain goes to, well, yeah, as a business owner, we have the ability in our software to monitor keywords, posts, competitors' posts, all kinds of shady stuff. And most marketing managers from 2019 on were taught that the best way to get reach is to go look at your top 3 competitors, grab their best posts, and copy everything you can. Just change the word, change your picture. So basically, you've got 15 spas with the same post in the same region, just a different picture. It floods the market with really bad SEO. Well, they do that same thing with this type of thing too. And I think if you look at examples, there's one, The Insurrection movie. I talk about this movie all the time. The keyword "the insurrection" was probably never used, like once in a million years before 2019. And then all of a sudden, there's a really interesting movie that tells everything that's going on this year, why, how, it portrays interesting about the media. It was really horribly done, but nobody watched it. Within how long was the insurrection trending everywhere as a political event? And so there's no way anybody would have found this movie. And I think they use that type of situation to push a lot of these things down. They can do that on Google when Kamala was running and there was all those things about you type in Trump and then Kamala comes up. Then imagine what they can do on an X platform, or TikTok does this a lot. And now that TikTok and Meta are merged, tell me that that didn't actually happen, because I'm getting asked on Facebook to finish a video I started on TikTok and forgot about.
Yeah.
How are they connected if they're not actually on the same servers, guys? Because you'll get deplatformed, or very much like 4 views if you say that Meta bought TikTok. Oh my God, that's horrible. Don't suggest that. But somehow that's interesting. And I'm now asked to connect my TikTok profile into my Facebook. That was never a thing before. So it's like, we're not supposed to pay attention to these SEO trends and what he's talking about with these keyword monitorings, but they make tools that you can buy for $5.99 a month or $15.99 a month or whatever, and monitor your competitors and all their keywords and all their ads.
It's crazy. So, I mean, I'm gonna, because you two just spoke, I'm gonna pass it over to Stove real quick. Stove, do you feel that right now they're playing really dirty? And like this is something that, you know, I honestly feel at this point in time, because when we look at everything we just talked about, especially with the way they have these profiles of us potentially on these shared servers, which I don't doubt, you know what I mean? I don't doubt that that's the case, because we know that the NSA, we know that there's a lot of DOD running through these social media servers and things like that. So, Stove, do you feel like they're playing real dirty right now, or what? Because it seems like with you, they played extremely dirty.
One of the things that you have to consider, especially with X, if you use Grok and you search Grok on a specific trending topic, it will pull up the latest, the biggest, the associated tweets with whatever it is that you're asking, right? So everything, all public tweets, supposedly they don't feed it private tweets, but all public feeds are being fed into Grok, which means that everything that is being posted is being analyzed more or less real time by the AI. Now, if Musk can do it for whatever purpose he says he's doing it, which is probably more or less benevolent, but it is almost certain that the other agencies are doing exactly the same thing, because here Musk is showing, like, look at all this bandwidth, all this data that is going through, and I'm able to process it just fine. You know, like the Twitter servers aren't crashing, Grok's not crashing. They're obviously able to handle all of that data just fine. And Meta, they've launched their own AI, and they clearly have the infrastructure to manage this kind of thing. So a lot of people think when it comes to monitoring, like, oh, you have your own FBI agent that's assigned to you that sits there and reads through all of your DMs. No, everything goes through AI now. They pick out the keywords. They pick out anything suspicious, anything that stands out. And then if there's anything major like that, if you start talking about insurrections or J6 or something like that, then that gets handed over to a human to review and follow up on.
Okay, no, I'm with you on that, man, and that makes a lot of sense. What were you gonna say, Josh? Go ahead.
That show, Person of Interest. Are you guys aware of that show?
Oh yeah.
I've
That
heard of it,
show-
but I haven't watched it. Yeah.
So, okay, I watched that show probably 5 or 6 years ago, and it's still a good show. It's a really good show. But the premise of the show is, after the Patriot Act, they had all this data, and so this guy who built the machine, he programmed this backdoor where it would spit out a social security number. That's it, just a social security number, and it would say this something is about something you need to look into with this person, and they're able to kind of prevent these crimes this way. So each episode is like, it'll give it who's this person and what's about to happen to him. But I revisited it and kind of started watching it again very recently. And I was very shocked now that I'm older and have this understanding and done this studying. Probably that's very accurate because that's the way I would think of it from a computational programmatical viewpoint, is that you bring in all this data, and then, like Stove said, once it picks up, give it all of the data on you, and they know more about you than you know about yourself. Once it says, okay, it looks like this guy's about to be radicalized, he's about to snap very soon, we can predict that he's going to snap soon, then it will elevate it to, like he said, some, just whatever department, whatever group, consulting firm, I don't know, I don't care, but they will elevate it to some, they'll elevate it to somebody who will then follow up on it in, I guess, personally. But Person of Interest, at least watch, I think it's on Amazon Prime, watch an episode or two and just kind of, it's eerie.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I want to say two things based on what Stove said. It sucks because I really enjoyed the thought of putting my covert FBI agent and CIA agent through the ringer each day. Like, I was excited to do that each day. It builds character, like they
Sure
need
does.
that. They need to be on on their toes. But no, exactly what you're saying too, man. It's very interesting to me on how we could very well potentially be looking at this combined server. So one of the things I wanted to bring up, I could not get this guy on the show. I tried hell or high water, but this is an ex-Pentagon employee, ex-DOD employee. He is actually a roommate with an old high school friend of mine. So I remember, so once I found out, I was like, does he want to come on the show? Would he please come on the show? I would love to talk to him. And he was like, he's okay with a phone call, but he doesn't want to come on your show. And I was like, I'll take the phone call.
Yeah,
Fuck
do the
it
phone
at this
call,
point.
man.
Yeah, I did it. So I talked with him, and he pretty much confirmed that the DOD and a lot of the other intelligence agencies throughout the world, and especially our own intelligence agency, they are using social media, kind of adding to what you all have been saying, to manufacture reality. Almost like to manufacture people's opinions, push people towards certain things. And at least in my opinion, in the past, we've seen them do this kind of stuff with, false flags, but these things still happen. We obviously still have false flags and things like that, but it seems like now they've centralized their approach with social media when it comes to, swaying the opinion of the public, manufacturing certain events, certain viral events, presenting extremes and illusions as reality, to the general public. So I think that even adds a little bit of confirmation to what you all are saying as well. So there's definitely something fishy going on, and it seems in a lot of ways, at least in my eyes, they're making it appear to be like the water is muddied, but I think there is a way around it. We just have to get creative. I don't know about you guys.
Well, getting
know.
creative. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to read this. It says, over information breeds passivity, because I don't know if anyone has seen it yet, but I did a podcast earlier today, and that was one of the things I wrote down. Over information breeds passivity, because once there's too much information, nobody can even make a reasonable conclusion anymore.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
bite-sized pieces.
Go ahead, Jen. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Jen. What were you going to say?
I forgot what I was going to say because that was a really good point. But
I'm sorry.
oh, I wanted to mention when you're talking about social media and how they're using it. Did y'all jump on the bandwagon of the Red Note at all?
No, that did not come up.
So that was interesting because
I think it is too.
They're using things that trend, I think, to gauge how the public responds to things, and then you see action. It used to be years later. Now we're in like days later of things that happen after we've gauged how the public responds to stuff. For instance, like nobody wanted TikTok because it was sending all of our data to China. That's really dangerous. Don't do that, and don't tell the truth on TikTok. That's really, really bad. But then as soon as TikTok gets banned, where does everybody jump ship? Red Note, where you have to sign in Chinese to say, I agree to all of these things and I'm going to do this and blah, 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 blah. So you put all your information on TikTok or on Red Note now. People moved all their accounts over and everything. Well, what was interesting is what Red Note would show you. As an American who's never been on there, they have to analyze your algorithm and just show you anything. And on TikTok, it's a wide open space. You can get a whole bunch of crap on there. But Red Note was showing really interesting things. And Americans were supposedly really shocked about what they found, because we've been told certain things about the way Chinese live and certain, conspiracy theories about their culture and everything. Did you hear when the Shein clothing company thing?
Shein, yeah.
Yeah, so we're all known. It's a common conspiracy that you don't buy from Shein clothing because it's like child labor.
Yeah.
And we're told that it's a joke around America. We kind of know that you shouldn't buy from that stuff. Like that's kind of a thing. So Americans asked that on Red Note, and all the China, and they could have been bots, but it was a lot of bots that looked like real accounts. So I don't know. But a lot of Chinese authentic looking accounts said, what is Shein? We don't know that company. And then everybody was like, child labor. We have so many adults. Why would we put our children to work? We don't do that. But in reality, Americans do that. We have 14-year-olds that work in factories. We have 14-year-olds that work at McDonald's. We have 10-year-olds that work on a farm, 8-year-olds that work at nail salons. So I think like we're the ones that do these things, and then they use social media to say other countries are bad. Look at all the things they do. And we're not showing that.
There's two sides to what you just said. So this is what when I think of what you just said, I said there's two outcomes. Either one, those accounts that are saying like, oh, we don't need to make our children work, are likely entirely fake AI Chinese bot accounts. But okay, so that's one. On the other end, if they're real people, then either they are so disconnected over there that they have no idea about any of it, or there's an element of truth to it. Either way, I think there's something very wrong with either of those outcomes.
Brainwashing on any side.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you. And I mean, even to Jen's point, actually credit to Jen's point. Yeah, I was served by I think he was either 9 or 10 years old at a Mexican restaurant.
Really?
About about I think it was about a year ago. I remember I went in with my coworkers and I went to go sit at the table, and then we'll get to stove. And I was sitting there, and he comes up with the so we have Amanda Locke here real quick. Amanda, thanks for chiming into the show tonight. Much appreciated. I'm on Red Note and they are so polite.
Did you pay your pet tax?
But dude, he came up and he had the server book and he's like, "Can I take your order?" And I looked at him and I was like, what? Like, I was just so blown away, man. But no, I mean, to credit what Urban was saying too, yes, it's very possible. Stove, I wanted to ask you this, man, because I want to get your opinion on this for sure. I actually want to ask all of you this, since, we're talking about Red Note and a lot of these new platforms that are coming out. What are y'all's thoughts on Blue Sky? I myself have not gone over there yet. I don't know.
Nope,
I've thought about just creating a stalking account to maybe go look at what the fuck's going on over there. But
I've
I
got
hear
one.
it's
You can check.
you can check. You can check. I hear it's becoming like a a place for all the predators to go.
Yeah.
That's just kind of what I've been
I
heard.
made an account and I was banned within 40 minutes.
Round of applause for Stove, guys.
That's got to be a new record, bro. That's got what happened when you were over there?
They just tagged me for harassment or something. They're like, your account is harassing others, and they blocked me. You go over there and it's literally half of it is furry porn and the other half is people talking about how they're so happy to be off of X because Musk sucks. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's I hate X since Musk took over, so I need something short and sweet. And they don't like Threads for some reason, because Threads is exactly the same thing I find over on Threads, which was Meta's answer to Twitter when Twitter got taken over. So Threads is the exact same thing. You jump on there and everybody is very much politically charged. The Canadian thing went wild on Threads when the tariffs and stuff were going and everyone was talking over there. You can't find anything on Facebook without searching. Your feeds are not going to show any of this that's trending, any of this that's live. But if you jump on Threads or Blue Sky or Twitter, you'll get new stuff every day. Weird stuff every day. As long as you're like, engaging and it's not a bot account, you will find new stuff all the time. Meta's still pretty controlling. So it's really interesting, the different platforms and who uses them. But yeah, Blue Sky I've seen is pretty much just, pardon my French, but I call it a circle jerk platform. I think it just kind of, it's just, yay, that's beautiful. Yay, that's beautiful. Yay, that's beautiful. And there's nothing really going on. I could be wrong and I could just not have the right circle on there, but it is what it is.
I just have a gut feeling that there's nothing really for me there.
I got booted off Threads. Well, I didn't get booted off Threads. I got a strike, and I couldn't post because, I had a guy on the show. So back in season 1, and it's crazy because he's a DJ now, but he used to work for a government contracting firm, and he had a top secret clearance. So he admitted a couple things to me. I'll get off the rip real quick. Yes, gang stalking is real, according to him. He verbatim said that we don't need to kill you anymore. We'll just get you to kill yourself. And that was something that hit. Oh yeah, that hit hard. I'll post the interview if anybody's interested on that.
Please do, because I've got some good insight into that. As a matter of fact, I found out. Just real quick, I've found out, and I have confirmed there are active terroristic, domestic terror, satanic affiliated cults running through places like Discord, and of course they're wrapped up in child pornography, and one of the things they do is they will blackmail. They'll use blackmail to either get these people to commit suicide on live stream, or to blackmail them into hormone replacement therapy. And so I can confirm 100% that these are real, and definitely. And I think that is probably the tool that they're using. So if they want somebody dead, like you just said, they'll get you to do it yourself, and they'll have video evidence proof, hopefully, and it will just look like crazy schizophrenics.
Oh, 100%, man. And the other thing too about it, and this is something, I mean, I know you guys know who the Lion is. I know you guys know. But Dave's a great guy. He was just
he's very interesting to talk to.
Yeah. He was just a little going through some shit back then. I totally get it. But he actually confirmed too that a lot of these, kind of like what Urban was saying, these really satanic cult leaders, these very high-ranking Freemasons, they will join the church as a form of plausible deniability. Because if you find that out and you run into the church and say Pastor Bill is a Freemason, everybody's going to look at you like you're a biblically accurate angel. They're going to be like, what do you mean Pastor Bill's a freaking a Freemason? Of course he's not. He's the pastor.
Or even if they are, they don't care. They have a Bible. sorry to interrupt, but they just
No, yeah.
pushed it off.
I think it's cognitive dissonance also. It's because even these people who are doing this evil crap, one of their tenets is like, oh, it's okay. Like, you can go to church and you can play pretend if it helps your mind. But when it's time that you need to do something, when it's time that evil comes knocking, just answer the door. That's their philosophy.
And
Well, they
that's
don't.
that,
Sorry.
no, you're all good, Jen. What were you gonna say?
I don't know if you've ever watched Supernatural or Buffy the Vampire Slayer. They're both along the same lines of demonic entities, and it puts it in perspective, I think, because I don't think most people realize what we deal with on a daily basis around us.
Yeah.
Physically or just energetically, if you don't even want to believe that, or just
True.
our own energies, if you don't even want to believe of anything else is going on, like in Supernatural. Our own mood can cause these types of interactions with people. And if you're not able to read that and all these types of things, you can have harried relationships with people and you're not really able to connect. And if that's done online and someone gets you and you're nervous and all this stuff, and you're now like groomed into a situation, and then you've got something that's shameful, they've got some sort of blackmail or something like that. It starts from the very beginning, but the demonic entities, the whatever it is, knows what their goal is from the beginning. They know the Bible. They know how to quote the Bible. If you watch Supernatural, Lucifer would lay on the bed and read the Bible and laugh and say, "This is so stupid. That's not how that happened." They know the Bible. It's funny. It's hilarious. But like Christians don't. And so Christians don't know these things or how to, react, but everybody else does. Even witches know how to use spirituality and biblical pretense and all kinds of, things in their spells. Christians don't. And so they get caught off guard by these types of things. And a lot of times the children who grew up in churches are vulnerable because they don't realize any of that exists. They think this is very protected. And they get in these cults very easily once, and I think that's where it needs to be focused. I wish there was some sort of a law enforcement agency that could focus their efforts looking at that, but we can't trust them anymore.
No. Absolutely not. Well, even when we're talking about, I'm gonna ask Stove too. Stove, have you encountered any of these cults online in your travels? Have you ever experienced any of these people maybe trying to come and can contact you directly, or have you just observed any of this kind of stuff?
So, online, yes, I've seen it. I don't generally get involved because these kinds of things, they are really not safe to even kind of like poke at and look at, because you don't want to draw their attention. Because there's a lot of people there that have a lot of free time on their hands that don't seem to have jobs that would be more than happy to stalk you and dox you and make your life awful,
Oh, 100%, man. So something that did happen to me, I wanted to say real quick, Jen, I did have Mark Pellegrino on the show who plays Lucifer back in season 2. And
I did not know who that was.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's
a great character. Oh my God, I have to watch that.
That is
he's a great he's a good dude. I mean, he's starting the American Capitalist Party. He at least seems to me one that could potentially not be involved. I'm not 100% sure yet, but he did choose a different Hollywood studio to do his stuff because he didn't like the way Hollywood was going. He didn't want to drink that Kool-Aid. So that kind of spoke to me a little bit, but what I was going to say too, I completely agree with Stove, man. So I got this email, right? It was funny. So like I got this email, I didn't, of course, respond. It obviously was it was strange, though. It was this person, they emailed me and they had this text file. And I'm like, I'm going to open this in a Tor browser just to freaking make sure that this is nothing that is trying to get through to me. So I did. And it was this person claiming, it was funny, though, dude. But like, see, this is the thing, because if he was truly a hacker, he would have had my new phone number. He had my old phone number. But it was crazy because I got the email from 2 different names, but it was the same message. And he states that he's found me on the dark web. So, by the way, dude, I haven't been on the dark web and probably since the Silk Road. That's how fucking
I
long
think I
it's
know
been.
the email that you're talking about.
Did you get one too? Because he asked for $2,000 in Bitcoin.
In Bitcoin, yeah.
Yep. So you got one too.
That'd be
This is
gift
weird.
cards.
Is that
Mine
that?
asked for
My
15
friend
though.
got one, and they make it very shameful. Yeah, they're making them look real.
They make it seem like you've been in the depths of the dark web, like watching children get strangled or something like that.
Yeah,
Dude.
and
It is
isn't
like,
that a Mayhan thing, Josh? The shame portion of things.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's fear mainly, but shame and fear are very much connected. But yeah, that's how they do it. They need to make you scared of something, and they need to, because that motivates you, and then they need to make you. Long story short, I guess to make it seem insane enough that only me and you, like, okay, this is our secret now. Don't tell anybody else, because that gives me power over you. Because if you start talking to other people about it, it falls apart quickly.
Well, did yours say something at the bottom like, don't tell anybody, I can tell if you share this or talk about this?
yes.
Yes.
Yep,
So they're preying on the fact that you're not going to know that. I mean, there's a slight chance that technology is available, and it is available, but probably not to everybody that has an email address. And so I think they're preying on the fact that a lot of people aren't going to think that that's, fake, and they'll fall for it. Just like the scams before it, they've done this forever, but they've gotten so good with AI. Do you remember the phone scams that used to get the old ladies all the time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just horrible. And you're like, Grandma, why did you fall for that? That was clearly a scam. But if you don't know, they really use fear.
It's hypnosis. Really.
Dude, I couldn't believe it, because I was like looking there.
So
I was like, dude, I was like,
way that it actually works.
Yeah.
The way that it actually works, because there have been multiple databases leaked recently, right? There's a website that actually shows all of the leaks that your data is in. And there was one really big one recently that leaked like a third of America. It leaked their email, their phone number, their address, etc. And so what they do is they literally just send out a couple 100,000 of these emails using this information. And the person that gets it, they're like, oh my God, like they have my name, they have my email, they have my phone number, whatever. They think, oh, that means that they're actually like watching me. They know what's going on. Like they've been spying on me. If I don't pay them, they're going to call the police, or they're going to email my pastor, whatever. Whereas in reality, literally anybody that wants your name, your phone number, your address can get it. I have a app on my phone that if I have just somebody's phone number, I can pull a full background check on them. For example, it is part of the security suite that I get with my profession. So if I have their name, or if I have their phone number, if I have their first name and an estimated age range, along with what city I'm guessing they live in, I can find them. I can pull full background check, full criminal history, get all their phone numbers, etc. The information's out there. It's not that hard to get.
Mm-mm.
True.
Now,
it hasn't been for about 20, 30 years. You're just showing how easy it is now.
The kind of flip side of that is, so normal people that get those emails, right? Like I get that email, I laugh at it because I know it's not true. They don't have anything to show because there's nothing that exists. But there are people that are going to fall for that and that are going to actually pay that money. And those people more than likely get some extra attention from investigators that realize, hey, this person likely has something out there on them, and they can be easily manipulated.
Oh, 100%, man. It's crazy too, because what's interesting with my case is me and my father, actually share the same name. There's only a difference in the spelling. His name is spelled Stephen with a V. Mine is spelled with a PH.
That is
So that's
absolutely
the
wild.
Yeah.
That's wild.
it's the only bull, because I had this. So I'll get into this real quick. So there was this lady back like at the beginning of it was around like beginning middle of 2024. She started following me. She started watching my show. So I had writer Lee and this guy Shane on, and we were talking about some of the issues with the conspiracy community with certain things. And she went ahead and, she started smearing my name, all of that. And I was like, okay, cool, whatever. I'm just going to block you. And then all of a sudden, like, she ended up blocking me. So I was like, whatever. But she came in with another account and she goes, like, she started smearing me. And she goes, yeah, I read the reviews on Brian Construction Group. You seem like your personality is just as shitty as you are. And I kind of like almost had to take a step back and kind of laugh because, like, you researched my dad's company. And I was like, so it's crazy the crossover there, dude. But like, no, you're absolutely right, Stove. It's insanely easy for people to get this information. I kind of laughed when I saw it because I'll say this too. I kind of have no fear to a fault. I don't know if it's my spiritual evolution. I just don't really fear much. I mean, if it's my time, I know where I'm going when I pass from here, and it's gonna be great. So, I mean, that's just kind of my mentality on that. But it was funny because like they didn't use my first name; they only used my last name. And they used my old phone number, which was, I had up until September of 2024. So it's crazy, how this happens. It's like it is like mechanism, like you were saying, dude. It is they're trying to fear you into this manipulation, this secret, and
It's
it does.
hypnosis.
It is. It takes part. But see, that's the thing. Like, I know my record's clean. I could show my browser history right the fuck now. And I'm like, I would just be like, what's up, dude? Like, you want that 2,000 in Bitcoin still? Like,
they're banking on the fact that we're all dirty.
I know they're banking on it. So, but nonetheless, man, let's kind of shift some gears. Let's bring up the GATE program thing because this is something we've talked about on the show before. And I'm going to bring up, we have this hypothetical convo with ChatGPT that Jen sent me.
Oh man, that was crazy.
So one of the things that for all of you guys who don't know what the GATE program is gifted and talented education. I have a feeling a lot of you out there who are on your spiritual evolution, you are an awakened individual, did experience something like this in your childhood. Whether it was strange testing in classes at your school or exterior buildings that may or may not have been affiliated with the school. And what's weird about this is some of us have clouded memories of it. Like, we remember these bits and pieces. Like we remember, the biggest thing I remember was the hearing and the visualization test and the strange fruit concoction. Because I remember that lists that you sent me on the first episode, Jen. Those are the biggest things I remember. But nonetheless, we have a hypothetical combo with ChatGPT about the GATE program. Let's bring it up. It has been coming out too. Now, what I'll try to do, Jen, is bring up that video too that I sent you as well.
Yeah.
It's coming out too that there has been affiliations with the CIA when it comes to this program and looking for people with psionic abilities. So what are psionic abilities? There are people with extrasensory abilities, psychic abilities, whether it be empathy, whether it be telepathy, telekinesis, the ability to remote view remote view and things like that. So here's the hypothetical combo with ChatGPT. I'm going to bring it up real quick. It's crazy though, because there is a person on my account or who I follow on X, and they're an 80s GATE kid. Like, you know what I mean? And and she was actually, I don't know if any of you guys experienced this, but I do remember something like this. It was like, she was forced to like go outside and play like this survival game. like in this program, like they were sent out, they sent them out into the woods. I think they were either isolated or in groups of two, but like they would have to play this survival game. They had like minimally nothing, and they would test their mental capabilities during this survival game. But nonetheless, we have this hypothetical combo. Let's take a look at it real quick. We have, hypothetically speaking, if an intelligence agency were to conduct covert experiments on school children's brains to study pattern recognition or remote viewing capabilities, the justification could be framed around national security, cognitive enhancement, or future workforce preparation. Here's a strategic breakdown of how such a program could be structured. So I want to bring up one thing from our last episode that we talked about. If you guys, the biggest thing I want to just explain to our viewers and our listeners is how easy it would be to get a school or a facility on board with this and keep their mouth shut. Because, one thing I talk about on the show a lot is plausible deniability. That is what these individuals thrive off of. For those of you who don't know, what plausible deniability is, real quick, we got Amanda. I was tested taking out of class, just me. They tested IQ, definitely. But plausible deniability is they concoct and do something, but they leave so little of a paper trail, or they use human psychology to divert focus. And what this plausible deniability does is it makes it look like that they couldn't have had a hand to do with it at all. They couldn't have had anything to do with it at all. This is what our government uses when we go through these different events that we have. This is what the invisible college uses to do the things that they do. But nonetheless, like, let's say you're a school, the average person, the average American, you're a school principal, and you get a call from the CIA, and you pick up the phone and they go, "Hi, this is such and such from the Central Intelligence Agency. Look, we're looking to implement this new program, this new testing program in schools for gifted kids, et cetera, et cetera. If you did this, you'd really be helping and supporting your country." This is how they do it. You know what I mean? This is the simplest freaking thing, because the average American is going to go, is going to go, "Of course, Mr. Central Intelligence Agency, I want to help my country. I want to support my country. Yes, yes, yes." And then the intelligence agency officer could go, "We need you to not tell anybody that we're involved, though, because it's a national security thing." And dude, these people would go right along with it like nothing. So if people think that it's not that easy, all right, well, just remember. Go ahead. What were you saying, John?
I believe you're right on point about that. They're so Duke University was one of them that I researched early on, where you get the letter from this gigantic school that sounded really awesome for you, and you were inducted into this amazing society of really smart people. And exactly. So your parents had really no reason to say no. I mean, it's such an awesome honor. And we talked about this before. They targeted, and I mean, yes, we were smart, and yes, we tested at certain levels, but it was almost like they targeted families who it was maybe the first kid that would go to college, or maybe they were underprivileged, or maybe they were a single parent home. And so it was really strange that a lot of the gifted kids had those family situations, which, leads to other discussions. But you mentioned plausible deniability. If you go down, it mentions that as a risk or an, what do they call it, objective of why it might not work. It says operational challenges, psychological impact. Some children may become aware of their abilities or conditioning, necessitating contingency strategies such as plausible deniability or memory suppression techniques, like the juice. Or did you hear the one where, remember when we used to put the headphones on and there was this guy's voice, Robert Monroe?
Yeah, the gateway.
Yeah, dude.
And that's interesting. Some of the stuff he talks about is interesting. I suggest people look that up. But this chat goes all the way through everything you were just talking about, and it pretty much lays out 3 phases of how they would do it. And you can look and see that's pretty much what they did. And you mentioned, not to, I'm full of it tonight. I apologize.
No, you're all good. You're all good.
So the 80s, when I posted on TikTok before I got banned, I had probably 80,000 views and a lot of comments, and they were all from people who had been in it in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and they were talking about how theirs were different. And what it looked to me as I studied the data, it was almost like the earlier on in the classes, the more physical the issues were. So it was either physical abuse or physical places with lots of like weird testing, and they would do a lot of the experimentations and stuff happened around those time frames. As the ages went on, like 70s, 80s, 90s kids, it got more digital. They figured out what they needed to do, what they were studying for, how they were studying it, how the tests were going to be approved easier, and there wasn't going to be as much backlash and this and that and the other. And they finished out. We still have the GATE program today. Many students are posting every day how they're inducted into it. So I don't think it's changed. I just think they've morphed into a digital pattern that we don't recognize that would be dangerous or scary, as much as a lot of the commenters said things like, well, yeah, 2 men in black suits would take me to a different classroom every like other month or something like that for weird testing or off-site, and they weren't the only ones that would say that. There was lots of people that had very similar stories from different years, schools, locations. It's weird. It was very weird.
I'm with you. It is strange. Real quick, we have Josh knows who Andrew is, but we got heavyweight weights life feels. Plausible deniability and compartmentalization makes this crap so easy for them. I couldn't agree more. Let's dive into this just a little bit. And then I want to ask Stove about his experiences because he's been in the corner. I want him to definitely talk up. But we got the objective, like you were saying, to identify children with exceptional pattern recognition, predictive abilities, or anomalous cognitive skills, precognition or remote viewing, to explore methods of enhancing human intuition for intelligence applications, to develop early stage cognitive conditioning programs that could be scaled into advanced intelligence training in adulthood. We got phase 1 data collection and screening. We got identify candidate schools, different socioeconomic target schools in different socioeconomic brackets to analyze environmental versus genetic factors, prioritize schools with gifted programs, special education programs, and military family backgrounds, standardized testing with hidden metrics. We just had somebody bring up the IQ tests. Yep. So we had Amanda bring up the IQ test. We had pattern recognition assessments, behavioral surveys, monitor reaction times, instinctive choices, and deviation from common statistical. This is one hell of a hypothetical, Jen.
Right. And I don't know that I sent you what my prompt was, just so that people know this isn't a legit story. This is a hypothetical. And my prompt just said, can you think like someone who works for the CIA and describe a reason to study school children's brains for their pattern recognition or remote viewing capabilities and conduct covert experiments? Hypothetically, how would your plan look? And the only reason I said that was because based on all of the comments that everybody has said about their memories of the program, that's basically what they're able to remember happened to them. And then they wake up and realize that it was supposed to be math. It was supposed to be English, but why was I doing this? So it basically sounds like that. I programmed that and it comes up with a 3-phase plan that basically is what we all went through. Very strange.
That's one hell of a hypothetical, man. And from what I'm seeing, because I actually had an interview with Josh's friend Nathaniel back in season 2 too. Yep. And he was doing hypotheticals with the AI, and he was getting them to crack left and right. But nonetheless, Stove, do you have any experiences with this, man? I never got a chance to actually talk to you if you ever experienced any GATE programs while you were younger and in school.
So I did, but I don't really remember any of it. So I can't really give you too much detail on that. The one interesting thing that seems to come up very commonly with people that were in the GATE program specifically and were taken for further training is that their adult IQ scores will generally be about 20 to 40 points lower than they were as a child. So just one interesting little thing that seems to come up over and over.
That's very interesting.
That is very interesting. We have a comment from Kyle Shyrock over here. Kyle, thanks for being here, man. As a public school teacher, I really hope this hypothetical is not being realized. Well, Kyle,
I do too.
me as well. I'm going to be 100% honest with you, but based on a lot of the experiences and the information that we're getting at this point in time, it might be a very real thing, man. That's what we're trying to break down right now. Real quick, I want to bring up this video that I sent.
Yeah, that's more proof.
Yes.
Real,
Let
real
me get
quick,
up here.
this makes me think, honestly, in such a weird way. This is Harry Potter. Okay, so they've got these
Yes.
people watching the kids, and the ones who have all these abilities, well, they get, into the program, they get to go to Hogwarts. But of course, Harry Potter is this idea of mythological magic, and so it's to confuse people from what magic really is, and make people think it's all like a made-up fairy tale. Same thing here. No, kids don't get recruited for their special abilities. They don't get tested, and they don't ever get recruited into any type of special programs meant to help you establish your magical remote viewing skills. It's not real. That's fake.
Gaslighting on the mass scale.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, so real quick, I'm gonna bring this video up. Let me get it back to the beginning here. We're gonna probably have to watch it again real quick, but here, let me get this on the screen because this is what I was discussing with Jen. This is strange because like a lot of us have been, shadow banned and deplatformed for speaking on this, but here we have somebody on Instagram actually speaking on it like this. So let's pull this up real quick. I'm going to go ahead and play the video.
Didn't know you were taking, and if you passed the second test you didn't know you were taking, you got put into the GATE program. The GATE program was the Gifted and Talented Education Program. I was a psychic in the Navy, and the number one question I get when I tell people that is, how did you get that job? Did you just walk in there and ask them for it? And I always have to tell them no, because that is not how it works. I actually got discovered when I was in elementary school at 10 years old through the GATE program. The GATE program was actually run by the CIA, and because they did it in elementary schools, most people assumed that they meant gifted and talented, like you may be gifted at reading or talented at math. That's not what they meant, babe. They meant, do you have a gift? Are you talented at psychic ability? First of all, what they were looking for was people to serve in the military, and they were looking for somebody that was good at a specific psychic ability called psychometry, the ability to read the energy of objects. If anybody's followed my page for long enough, somewhere on there is a video that says, I was a psychic in the Navy, but it doesn't work the way you think it works. I actually can feel the energy of mechanical objects, and I can tell you where they're broken. That is what the GATE program was looking for. Anybody remember these cards? The cards with the pictures on the back, and one person would hold it up, and you were supposed to be able to visualize or see if you could visualize the picture on the other side of the card. You were not supposed to be guessing. You were trying to see if you could actually feel or tell what was on the other side of the card, either through a physical feeling, a vision in your head, or just something, right? But you were not supposed to be guessing. They would say specifically the word visualize on purpose because they did not want you to guess. They wanted to know if you knew. The other thing that they would give us to play with in that program were these tangrams, right? These are tangrams. They're these shapes that they would give you a picture, and you were supposed to see if you could use the shapes to make a picture. Anybody who's served in the military has also seen tangrams on the ASVAB, because the two tests that they gave you to determine whether or not you would go into the GATE program were IQ tests, and the military entrance test is also an IQ test. Those tests are testing your processing speed. The Gifted and Talented Education Program was meant to test whether or not you were capable of psychometry. Now, let me tell you why the tangrams are specifically important. Because if you were really, really, really good at the tangrams, usually it was because you were really gifted at psychometry. I feel it physically inside my chest, which of the pieces are going to go into the final object, and I can see the final object in my head. I can see those specific, and they're all different colors. I would be able to see very clearly. Pieces feel differently to me because I am a psychometrist. So why were they looking for that? Well, I'll tell you. So I was in a squadron called HSC-84. It was the only squadron in the Navy that was dedicated specifically to special operations support, combat, search, and rescue. That is exactly what it sounds like. We only operated in combat. The moment the war was over, we were over, the squadron decommissioned. So why did they need a psychometrist? If any of those helicopters were going to crash, I could feel it. I put a video up about this before. I'll make another one if you guys want me to. But if at any point, any of those helicopters was going to have a critical malfunction, if it was going to have an operational failure, I could feel inside both of my chest and somewhere right here behind like my nose. I wish I could like point to the place where it is because it's like an intersection somewhere right in there. Anyway, that almost feels like it's pulling forward, and I visualize the part of the helicopter, the mechanical piece, the function, the whatever that was going to malfunction, and I can say something about it before they ever take off the ground. There were at least 7 that I can remember where I just suddenly felt this feeling like something was going to happen, and I said something to somebody, and I went and fixed it, or I went and checked on it, or whatever it was that we needed to check on. And sometimes it would be really small things. It would be bolts that weren't tight. It would be tiny screws, cam locks that weren't put all the way that would.
All right, real quick, man. The tanagram thing.
Yeah.
That was pretty vicious because I definitely remember that I actually used to play with tanagrams outside of that too. So that's kind of like where it was like, whoa, like I definitely remember that. The one thing I want to say about this though, which is going to be kind of like lending to everything that we've been talking about, look at the exposure on this.
Yeah.
If any of us were to have posted a video like this with the same information, what do you think would have happened? Because this is what I'm talking about. And the fact that she's ex-Navy or she's ex-military involved, I mean, that personally leads me to believe, that personally leads me to believe that this could be something very interesting. So why her? You know, because we brought up Jake, you know what I mean? Jake knows nothing. Jake's a friend of mine, and I've been chatting with him, and he's been dealing with a whole bunch of stuff for covering the GATE program. So it's like, why this person? There has to be something to it.
He gets hate.
I'm telling you, man. So like I don't know. So I want to get you guys' thoughts on this. Why do you think that this individual is allowed to relay the same information that we would get shadow banned, our accounts deleted?
She was former military.
It's personal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's personal. You think it's personal because exactly. I mean, Stove, what are your thoughts? Do you think this could potentially be some kind of controlled opposition, or this kind of like what I would say a controlled drip feed of some kind?
Part of it is actually deliberate. And if you follow Gray on Twitter, it's at Gray Area Monarch.
Okay.
He actually wrote some posts on this specific topic recently, which is they put these out. They're essentially bait because they're looking for people that are starting to remember things. They're looking for people that might not be as contained as they need to be, people that need to be followed up on. And so they put these things out and they wait to see who bites. So that is part of it. And the other part of it, well, for one, the censorship has gotten a little bit better. I mean, we can all tell that ever since Musk kind of took over X, started lightening things up, ever since Trump won the election, things have definitely gotten better. But on the other, they're also just kind of front running this to go ahead and get their version of the narrative out, you know, so they can be like, oh, like, yeah, the kids, we just did some hearing tests on them, IQ tests, they played with the funny plastic colored tiles, you know, because they want to get ahead of the actual narrative, which is when they start talking about the really awful, horrific stuff that happened.
That gets shadow banned. Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah. No, I think Stove summed it up great, man. I think that's exactly what could be going on. And it is. It's almost as if they're testing the waters. Like maybe that could be it too. They're testing the waters because even in the video, it said it triggered a lot of these people's memories. And I remember when you first talked with me about it, Jen, like, and you sent me that list, and then you sent me some of the stuff, and then the things that stood out to me the most, I said it earlier, was the weird fruit concoction. I remember they made me drink this really, it was like berry flavored. Like
I can't remember
like
that at all.
they gave it to me. It was like in a little, those cups.
Like
They
those
look like.
little ketchup cups.
Yes,
Yeah.
they gave it to me in one of those little ketchup cups, like like you get at like a restaurant or something, or you go to eat out somewhere. And I remember drinking it, and I remember them putting me down, and they put on the earphones. They put on these headphones that played this tone and this frequency, and they blindfolded me, or they put something over my eyes.
Mm.
And it's like I remember my mom took me to this place. Like there was
Yeah.
like this was where I went, at least it was not in the school, but it was affiliated with the school, and it was a separate building. That's where I ended up going for this too. And like, so this is just wild, man. I mean, I think your action Stove's kind of right with what he said. I mean, they're baiting at this point in time. They're trying to kind of see who remembers what. They're trying to see if it is as contained as they would hope it would be. But one thing we're consistently seeing when it comes to the topic of the GATE program is it just seems to kind of be gaining momentum, gaining traction. I mean, this could even be potentially part of what they're trying to do too, because like I stated in the show before, now that the conspiracy narrative is mainstream, it is in their control at this point. I mean, they have full bore over, what can be released as far as a lot of this surface level information and even some of the deeper stuff. You know what I mean? Especially too, like, yeah, I mean, I don't care if YouTube strikes me for what I'm going to say, because YouTube can kind of just go fuck itself at this point. But yeah, you're not even allowed to, I mean, you can't even talk about actors being pedophiles. You can't even talk about the whole Diddy thing or anything like that. So it just blows my mind, on how like we're experiencing this, like, and people like us, man, we're the people, we're the creators, we're the doctors, the mechanics of the new earth when we kind of get there, you know what I mean? And when this kind of all blows over in the future. And this is, it's crazy how we're sitting here and we're hitting our nose, especially Urban's doing his show. We're going to get to that here just in a sec, because I want to talk about something he talked on his show. You have Jen doing her thing. You got Stove calling out everything that he possibly can. And Stove and Jen are in the survivor communities too. And, it's, you guys are definitely we're all sitting here putting in this work, and we're all sitting here trying to do our best, and we're just getting stonewalled almost, it seems like, by these, controlled opposition. But nonetheless, let's shift into this next topic real quick. So, Urban, I want to make sure I say this right. Parables in pastiche?
Pastiche.
Pastiche? Okay. I wanted to make sure I said it right. So that is Urban's new podcast, guys. I have Urban's link, his link tree, in the bottom of both the YouTube and the Rumble descriptions. Awesome. I highly recommend that you go check this show out. The subject matter in it is very good. It's hitting hard on some really big topics that we kind of discuss in our community nowadays. But dopamine addiction is actually one of the things I wanted to talk about, because I remember in the episode that I was listening to, you got some props here, Urban. Amanda said it is so good, and I completely agree, man.
Yeah,
I'm glad
today was a great show. We had Pastor Carner on today, and I was already expecting a good show, but it kind of surpassed my expectations.
Yeah.
Definitely I'm gonna have to rewatch it, just because there was a lot of kind of like shock, just things that just kind of blew me away. So, but everyone here, I want to get all of you on just eventually. I mean, I've got a huge list put together, but you guys are right near the top. So we'll get every one of you on and do a show together. Just have a chat about something interesting. So
hell yeah, dude, you let me know when. I am 100% in. But one of the things you talked about that I think, I mean, you didn't touch on this in the way, I mean, you didn't call it dopamine addiction, but you called the addiction to like porn, video games.
It's just addiction, like basically.
100%. And this is something I think, we need to start bringing to light a little bit more, because one of the reasons why is you look at the average human today. And the dopamine response in the average human today has been completely and utterly desensitized. I mean, you look at the attention span. This is why platforms like TikTok do so good, is because you look at the average human attention span at this point in time, it's about 30 seconds to a minute. It really is. I mean, when it comes to to a lot of things, I mean, that
Might be less.
might be like maybe 10 seconds. I don't know, but at,
Yeah.
15.
at this point, it's getting wild. But I think this is a really good topic to talk about, because I think people need to know how harmful this is for us, because when we override our dopamine response in our body and we are consistently flooding ourselves with this excess dopamine, whether it be from likes on social media, whether it be it's watching videos, whether it's playing video games, whether you're self-servicing yourself. I'm just going to call it at that. I'm just going to call it self-service, and but nonetheless, man, let's kind of break into that a little bit. Have you yourself experienced this at all? Did you end up overcoming this in your life? Any kind of dopamine addiction like this?
Me?
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I mean, if I hadn't, I don't think I would have understood it as well as I do. And unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast, is that I won't say 100%, but probably 90 to 95% of the time, you really need to at least go down that path in some degree or another and learn from it and transcend it. And I think it's just one of those things. You can only do it once you can only fully understand the gravity of it once you walk that road. Even if you go and you study it, like let's say that I went to a 4-year degree and studied the psychology of addiction, but I've never been an addict to anything. I still think maybe you're only getting 70% of the picture. But addiction is primarily dopamine addiction. I mean, that is addiction. The reason we eat is because of dopamine. The reason we sleep even has dopamine response. It's just what drives you.
I would 100% agree, man. And that's where, I would even come in and say, like, there's healthy, prolonged, and one of the best things I can say is delayed gratification of the dopamine signaling in there. And I mean, how do we get that? Is, we don't cave into instant gratification. We don't cave into chasing pleasure. What we kind of do is we take the long delayed gratification route, because when you work towards something, when you actually put in that work, make those sacrifices that you need to make, and you put forth that energy into something that you wish to bring into your life, whether it be abundance, a new career, a new relationship. This is what I would call a healthy dopamine response. But when we're talking about, like you hop on fucking Pornhub and you pull up the whatever fucking video and go to town, or you're just constantly sitting there playing video games and stuff like that. This is where, but see, this is the thing too, and I'm going to actually pop this over to Jen after I say that. Not a lot of people understand, there's, at least in my eyes, an as above, so below when it comes to the spiritual world and the digital world.
Absolutely.
And we've definitely brought this up before. So, it's often stated, now don't get me wrong, I can't prove this, that if you are partaking in adult websites like that, it's almost demonic. It's almost like a demonic attack. What do you think about that, Jen? Do you think that's possible? Do you think that it's that since we're looking at that as above so below concept to the spiritual and the digital world, I mean, do you think that a lot of these addictions, especially the stuff online, could have some kind of potential negative attachment with them?
Absolutely. That's a very big topic. So with the adult sites in general, I think those have a different kind of leash on people than other addictions, but they all kind of act similar. I mean, so food addiction probably is the only other one I can argue is a lot like the porn addiction, because most people in their relationships need some sort of sexual to get on with their day or their life or whatever. Not many people are celibate nowadays. And so it's very difficult for them to, what do you call it? Just small scale things. Once you have a little bit, you need a lot more. Once you have a little bit, you need a lot more.
The tolerance.
Tolerance, yeah, and it happens with food too, because I've debated pastors on this, like, oh, heroin addiction is the worst, you know, and I said, you can be addicted to chocolate cake and it could cause you just as much drama as heroin. It depends on your brain.
100%.
And they're like, no, that's not a thing. I said, it is. It's a drug. It chemically alters your brain, and if that's what you decide you need and you will do anything for it, what's the difference in the drug? A drug is a drug. And I think, you know, food is a problem because you need it, but also if you have trouble with it, then it's hard to stay away. So there's a lot of addictions that I think people don't know how to get help for because it's a daily life situation and there's a lot of shame around it. And then you have, you know, a lot of us have dealt with drug addictions or people with that. And I think that's a completely different bear. I think that comes from holes in the soul. I think we all have something that we're trying to fill, and that could be caused to us or something the way that we were born, whatever it is, but we try and fill a hole with whatever substance or all the substances, and it just, you know, it becomes an addiction to the substance instead of getting away from the hurt. And most people that I've talked to, once they, I could be wrong, but most people I've talked to, once they kick the addiction, they still have the hurt, and it's a lot worse to deal with now. So I really think that the parasite energy that y'all are talking about feeds on the fact that we have wounds in our soul, or that we have a need for food or a need for something, and that's a vulnerability that allows the addiction to happen. And with our phones, it's the same thing. They use notifications on us as
100%.
Like, you know, the low dopamine mornings you were talking about, how to, yeah, I think that's a great tip, talking about that kind of thing, because a lot of people don't realize you wake up and you look at your phone. You have to slow into it.
No, 100%. Stove, I want to get your thoughts on this, man. Do you think also that there is some kind of negative attachment or potentially something parasitic that comes along with a lot of these habits, such as porn, overeating, you know, playing video games like nonstop? I mean, I remember the World of Warcraft days, man. Like I never got on it. Like I mean, I played Half-Life and I played, you know, like Counter-Strike and stuff like that when I was a kid, but I didn't play, you know, I wasn't, but dude, I remember I wouldn't see my friends for weeks. Like I would not see them for weeks. And then like they would come out of the house and they'd be like, yeah, the only thing I can think of is like, I don't know, like if any of you guys ever used to watch Family Guy, but there's that episode where Quagmire discovers internet porn and he comes out of the house after a month and his one arm is like super fucking swole. And then the other one's like still skinny. I mean, bro, that's what I was looking at when I was looking at this stuff. But Stove, nonetheless, go ahead, man. I want to hear your thoughts on these potential parasitic or negative entity attachments when it comes to these habits.
So I have actually written about this on my section of the Substack. So if you go to Urban Substack and look at my Stove's Food for Thoughts, you should be able to find it there. But yes, especially with adult material that is professionally made, a lot of it is made specifically. It's difficult to put into words, but while you're watching it, it drains energy from you as a sacrifice. I don't know if idolatry is the right word to use here, but it's basically the same concept. You are approaching it as an idol, and it is taking your energy from you. It is draining your energy from you as a sacrifice. That is the simplest way to demonstrate this, and I think most of the men watching this will understand what I mean immediately. Is just note the next time how you feel after taking a couple minutes by yourself versus after making love to your loved ones, you know? Like after one, you feel not just the shame, guilt, whatever that comes from it, but you feel physically, spiritually, and emotionally drained.
Absolutely.
Whereas you don't get that when you are um, engaging in marital activity. You know, I think that that is the simplest demonstration of it,
That's a good point.
and kind of
That's a
proves my
good
point.
point. I agree with you completely, Stove, because I mean, it's because when you're, to me, true sex out of love is divine. It's a exchange of energy. You are sharing your energy with that loved one. And there is that bond there. That's why, like, I mean, I know a lot of people might not agree what with what I'm about to say, but I think what the Bible meant, instead of don't have sex before you're married, don't have sex unless you're in love. And like that's definitely my opinion on it. I know not everybody might agree with that, but I think that is what that translates to me because when we look at love and we look at sex when it's out of love, like with your spouse or somebody you're with, it's a completely different experience. You don't feel drained. You don't feel this shame. You don't feel this guilt. Like, you know what I mean? As opposed to what Stove was saying, when you do it by yourself, all you're doing is giving up your energy. Like, you know what I mean? There's no exchange. It is just taken from you. It leaves you. And there is that sense of shame. There is that sense of guilt. That I'm not trying to get too into it, Jen, but we were all young kids once,
This is a
like
topic I enjoy, but for other reasons. So we'll go.
yeah, no, I feel you. But we were all young men once. Things, but I still even remember as a young man. Like that's how I would feel in that situation, and it was always something that kind of stood out to me. And based on even what Stove was saying, the professionally produced ones, like that one, that's very interesting. It makes you think, what is the intention behind that truly? I mean, especially when you're experiencing that. You look like you want to say something, Jen. Go.
Yeah, I thought of something that I read, and I don't know who to ask, and probably live is the worst possible spot. So if this is not the right place to ask, feel free to jump topic. But would you guys know about the topic called saving your seed and why it would be important?
Retention? Oh, absolutely.
Women
So,
don't know that that's a thing. So I really think that there needs to be more discussion about why that's a big important factor.
well, I'll tell you this. So, like the way I do it, I'm very Taoist about it. I don't self-service, only the act itself. Especially the one, I know guys who do what they call sexual kung fu. I have a guy who does that, but he will basically do the act, but not orgasm. My thing is this: like you have your partner and you have your partner to consider in that situation too, and a lot of your partner's experience is based on if you're having a good time too, and you're enjoying yourself also, and that's what I mean. It's like the mutual thing. So like when it comes to the way I do it, I don't self-service, but yes, the act itself, I am married, so like that is how I do it. The reason why is a man. So I'm even going to pull back the Buddhist philosophy on that. So a drop of our stuff is equivalent to a million drops of blood. Now we know the occult significance of blood, how much power and energy it has when they utilize blood. So imagine that times like 100 when it comes to our stuff. And it helps you. And there's even people who state that it helps with the connection to your pineal gland. It helps kind of foster, because your kundalini energy is a sexual energy, essentially it is, you know what I mean? And it causes that connection within you. So I mean, to me, I think there is absolutely something to it. I mean, a lot of these ancient and these old traditions wouldn't be talking about it, if there wasn't something to it. I mean, I'm not a fan of him anymore, because when COVID was around, he hopped right on the narrative. It's unfortunate, but I'm going to talk about something he said before that. Sadhguru. He stated that, that's where a man's connection with God, a man's connection with the divine, the creator, kind of comes into play. That if you utilize it in the act of love and you're doing it with a partner, that's one thing because of the exchange, but you shouldn't be spilling it all over the sheets, is basically what he said, because that's where, as a man, our creative drive comes from. That's where as a man, our motivation to preserve our family, take care of all of ourselves. And there is links to testosterone too, when it comes to this as well. So at least on my end, yes, I think men should be practicing this also as a form of discipline, man, because, we look at today's average man in our society. I mean, what do we look at? We look at, I'm not saying all of us, but quite a few, they lack discipline. They lack motivation. They lack creativity. They lack testosterone. And, so for me, I think it's of course, it's just I think it's an absolute must. As far as, preserving yourself in a spiritual way, and it's important to your sovereignty too. But I'll let Josh and Stove take over from here.
On that matter, I think there's definitely alchemical basis to it. There's just too much history on it. Too much has been mystic. It's a mystic. It's not like somebody there probably are research papers out there on it, but this is more of like a mystical alchemical type of writing. But I think fundamentally you nailed it on the head. I think it is a mastery of discipline. Now, what's the difference between males versus females? Is one different than the other? I would say, in my opinion, probably yes. And what's that whole idea of what did you say, 1 million drops of blood?
Yep, is equivalent to 1 drop of our stuff. Yep.
Yeah, and so I to a certain degree, if you look at it on that energetic net gain, net loss, there's definitely something behind it. I think so. I don't think it is a bad, a fundamentally flawed, or just absurd idea by any means. I think there's something to it, and if all else, it's just a mastery of discipline. I mean, if there's no magic voodoo behind it, you're just disciplining yourself, and there's something to be gained from that. So,
I 100% agree. Stove, let's hear your thoughts, man.
I don't really have much to add on the topic aside from suggesting that anyone who is interested in learning specifically about the energy of the release to look into the practice of chaos magic. Chaos magic, the simplest and most widespread form of it, is specifically powered by that release. Does it work? I don't know. I've never tried. But there are people out there that do seem to think that it works, and they say that it works pretty well. So if that is something that works, and it works as they say that it does, then obviously there's something much deeper and much more powerful going on than you just getting handy with your hand.
Yeah.
Well, too, I've heard of chaos magic before, sure, but dude, that even kind of segues into what I'm going to say now, is because when we look at that state, when we get there, that is technically considered an altered state of consciousness, right?
They call it the little death.
The little, exactly.
Have you heard that term before?
Yeah, I've heard that used in a few circles, man. Actually, the little death.
And you have so, for instance, if you look at the Washington Monument from a bird's eye view, there's something called the Vesica Pisces. It's two circles like a Venn diagram, and straight up in the middle is the Washington Monument, the obelisk, which is a phallic symbol that's all the way back to ancient Egyptian mythology. But the ancient symbol for the sun is called the circumpunct, a circle with a dot in the middle of it. the circle represents the female egg or womb, and the dot the male sperm, and that was the ancient symbol for the sun. And that's what they believe. According to a handful of, I've heard it from probably about 3 different people. Bill Schnebelen was one, and he was involved in some of the satanic circles of the mystery, like high levels Freemasonry and stuff like that. And he said at the highest levels, they teach that the G of Freemasonry stands for the generative principle. And that's, if you look at the ancient Egyptian Osirian legend, that was the, so Osiris was cut to 14 pieces, and all were recovered by his wife, save for the phallus. That's what the obelisk represents. And it's that the generative principle is missing. And so, not going to go into that, but they believe, essentially, that's their basis for belief that sex is, or the moment life is created anew, so that joining of masculine and feminine energies, they believe it's that, or the sun symbol, that is God, the creation principle.
That's what I've heard.
Exactly.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Jen. Yeah, you go ahead.
I was trying to remember where I heard it, and I don't know, and I could be wrong, but someone had said that humans that are created, naturally with the happy ending on both sides of the fence are born with a fully attached soul. And those who are created out of other instances where one was not happy or neither were happy is not in soul. And I can't put that away now. Like I
like that. It's always so simple usually. Like, so maybe there's a maybe. You know what? As a matter of fact,
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Hold up. It's funny. I got something to add to that. Following what you just said. Earlier in our podcast, I can't remember who said it, but we brought up this idea that maybe the trauma from birth, from labor and birth, is the initial core split personality, and that's how you forget who you are.
That's so there's a theory, and this is way beyond some of the gate people. Okay, so just let me take a seat on this one, but there's a theory that some of the gate or other type of testing situations were trying to study that and study the monarch abilities to how do I put this to pass things through different generations and things. So they were studying pregnant women, and at the 3rd trimester they would do certain tests or different procedures or whatever it was on the baby, and then that baby would have those memories after born, or would have those traits, or would have these things and stuff like that. So there is a lot of discussion on that ensouled person versus like lab connected discussed. And right around the 80s is when there's some reports and some people discussing those types of situations. I know there's some overlapping. I wish I could find some scientific papers on it. If anybody knows of that, please tag me somewhere.
This is actually, so I've heard similar versions of this before, but what you just kind of said, I mean, with the trauma from birth and, that how if the parents, even if it was maybe something out of wedlock, it doesn't have like a full, man, that just in a spiritual sense, dude, because like, we look at the power of intention, and we look at the power of love, and we look at the power of our consciousness. Like we look at all of those things that come into the facilitation of making a child. I 100%, man. That's why I was like, whoa. I was like, this definitely, this could be something. This could definitely be something.
It's got that. So the one thing that's interesting, and okay, quick. So in the human mind, we perceive beauty, but what I believe is that what we call beauty is observation of something in a fundamentally low entropy state. So for instance, a crystal, a crystalline substance is it's a molecule where the the molecules that comprise the substance arrange themselves in neat geometric repeating patterns. So it'll look like honeycombs or something, and it'll all be nice and neat, which means it has a low chaos state, a low disorder state. And so we perceive this natural beauty in that state. And so back to what we were saying, that what we just put together almost kind of has that inherent simplicity where it's just really simple, almost goofy, but it's not goofy because there's just enough truth in it to make it very beautifully elegant. So
That's
dude, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you 100%, man. Like, no, wow, I'm getting blown away over here, Urban.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
I wasn't able to put that one down either.
That's I mean, dude, especially when you said the entropy state with the geometric patterns, because, yes, when we look at a lot of the waveforms too that affect our reality. I mean, I've shown cymatics on this show before. If anybody is tuning in that doesn't know what cymatics are, it is visible sound. When you play sound waves through a medium, whether it be water, a non-Newtonian liquid, sand, we create these beautiful geometric patterns. Like, like we have these very like honeycomb patterns, like, crown chakra patterns, things like that. We have all of these that create. So that even adds more to what Urban was saying about this.
You know what? As a matter of fact, the reason that I made that connection was because I wanted this idea of what technically is a portal. So not like, Rick and Morty portal. No. What do these magician, warlock, wizard, schizophrenic people, what do they mean when they say portal? Specifically, I was looking into what this whole thing at the Vatican, what's up with these sacred portals that they formed a sigil of Lucifer. And nobody can give me an answer on what the hell that was about.
I had your back on that group, man. I saw those dudes try to freaking. I had your back on that.
I don't believe those are. I think those are AI accounts. Because,
very well could be, dude.
Dude, you're gonna tell me my eyes are lying to me? Like, there's no way that was on accident. They definitely somebody knew what they were doing. But what is a portal? And it brought up chakras. It brought up this idea of low entropy state, and that's kind of how I put this together. But a portal, I guess you could say, a portal to see that type of beauty is something inherently in a low entropy state. So I fundamentally, I think it has to do with order in a way.
Chaos, so low chaos. That's interesting.
Order and chaos, and what I come to ultimately realize, I might say that order and chaos probably would be the ultimate, like the tippy top of duality, even beyond light and dark, good and bad, order and chaos. Because if the universe was completely chaotic, and then, I don't know, the Big Bang, which in some understandings was actually sex, so it's a bit of a joke. The universe came into existence as a Big Bang. And then why is the sun symbol related to sex? So, what is this idea of a portal and the sun is decaying due to entropy? It's all connected. I believe it's all connected in a way. I don't know how.
I would completely agree. I want to get Stove's thoughts on what you just said, and then we're going to go ahead.
Talk to on this one.
Agreed.
Yeah, I want to get Stove's thoughts on this, and then we'll probably close it out for tonight. I know Stove's got to go to work. I do too. But Stove, let's hear your thoughts on what Urban just said.
I don't really have any thoughts on that, honestly. What I wanted to comment on was specifically what Jen was saying about the souls.
Okay.
So, for one, when you start talking about things like the soul isn't fully attached, right? You start straying into really dangerous areas of Jewish Talmudic theology, because their thing is kind of like the Jews are the only ones that have souls and nobody else does. So I don't think that what she said, that there has to be a happy ending on both sides for the soul to take, is particularly accurate either. What I will say from my personal experience is that the soul becomes attached to the baby at a incredibly young age. I have been able to sense the attachment starting at about 3 weeks.
That's what. Yeah.
So around 3 weeks, I knew that the person was pregnant before they were pregnant, and I was able to tell them the gender of the baby.
That
That's
is,
my
man.
personal story. I can attest to that similar story. So yeah, I agree.
Man, that's dude. I mean, well, you know, now that oy vey, that's all I'm gonna I'm gonna say on that one. But nonetheless, guys, I want to say this is a spectacular show. It was a pleasure as always sitting with the three of you. I'm glad the official oven himself could be here tonight. Also, that was a blessing in and of itself for sure.
I want all you
Look,
guys to come on my show. All of
yes,
you.
dude.
Not at the same time. I want to do it one by one, just because we got two other people. So it just won't work if we do everyone at once. But one at a time, absolutely.
I definitely learned my lesson from the post-election special. Yes, I mean, as much as I had high hopes for that, having 10 people on at once, yeah, little too much. So definitely learned my lesson on that. But nonetheless, like I said, guys, this was a fantastic conversation. I think we covered a lot of great things. I think we brought some light to things, and we definitely brainstormed. You know, Urban brought up the entropy factor when it comes to beauty. We talked about, you know, these interesting things with our life force energy. And the number one thing I'm going to leave everybody with is this. Keep pushing, keep delivering truth. Don't let it get you down. They're just trying to make you think the waters are muddier than they are. They're trying to make you think they're deeper than they are. And right now, we are the main front, all of us sitting here, as well as a lot of other people, into delivering real information and delivering real truth to people that need to hear it. I know each one of us in this room right now has definitely helped somebody with their message. And, you know, that should be the currency in this. It really is, to know that we've been able to make a light bulb go off in someone's head, to make, you know, to have somebody hear our words and it help heal them, or for some to actually make something come full circle for somebody, something they may not quite understand, or something they experienced, or something that happened to them. But nonetheless, I cherish all three of you. You guys are doing amazing work. Keep up the fantastic work. Of course, man. So Josh, let's start with you. I've got your link tree at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and add Stove's link also too, once we're done with the show, to the stream. But if you got anything else going on, or anywhere else anybody can find you, why don't you let them know now?
Well, the best place to find me is bio.link /officialurban, and that'll be down in the description. And then for our podcast, it's bio.link /pastichecast, which will also be in the description. But I'll try to keep those one and, you know, the same links on both pages. So that's all you need to find me. And I pop up here and there and just drop random information that I find.
Hell yeah, man. I love it. I love it. Jen, let's start off with you. I've got your X account in the description for the Rumble and the YouTube videos. But if you got anywhere else anybody can find you, or you want to share anything else that you're working on, let them know now.
Not so much. I mean, my work is my work, so that's kind of boring to most people here. I'm also on TikTok. They'll let me say a little bit more than I do on X for length purposes. So feel free to find me over there. Same name, Nerd in Charge. So thank you so much for this. It was wonderful chatting with y'all.
Oh, dang, it was, man. And Stove, I have your X account in the bottom of the Rumble and the YouTube description. And I also got your Substack right here, Urban sent to me. So If you guys are on the Official Urban Substack, I highly recommend you check it out. We have a lot of great people, especially my friend Rachel, who has just started contributing over there as well with Black Flag News. Definitely recommend you check out a Substack, but you go to the Substack and it's under Stove. So, but Mr. Stove, tell us anything else that you're working on, or if you're okay, anywhere else anybody can find you.
So that's pretty much it. I try to keep a very low profile.
I know.
It's like I mentioned while we were talking about the cult thing. There are a lot of ways to attract the wrong kind of attention. And one thing I didn't really mention, I have been involved in actual operations to physically rescue children, right? And these are the kinds of, I was stalked after. I had cars following me. I had people come up to me and start threatening me. I had entire groups, like groups of 5, 6 people try to corner me. More than once, I had a full weapon, right? And these are people I did not know who they were. I did not know where they came from. I did not know how they knew me. So if you start getting involved in kind of this sphere, I strongly, strongly recommend that you keep your head on your shoulders, think before you do things, and don't put yourself out there, because there are a lot of people that would just love to do nothing more than make you miserable. Writing wise, I write for the Substack. If there are any topics that people are interested in, I do take requests. You can send me a private message on X. What I write about is kind of whatever strikes my fancy. Honestly, I don't really have a big list of things that I'm planning to write on. But if you have something that you're interested in, just send me a message, and if I'm interested in it too, I'll write.
Hell yeah, Stove. You got some love with that, man. So, Stove, be careful, please, from Amanda. Amanda, thanks for being definitely, bro. And I thank you for what you're doing. Thank you. Alrighty, guys. If you can just hang out for 2 minutes after we end the show, I wanted to chat with you guys for a sec. But other than that, thank you again for joining me for another BG-Cast Wednesday live podcast. I will be back next week with Emily Moyer. We are going to be discussing how they're looking for our blood, and they're taking our blood for more reasons than we know. It is more than just a bloodline. They are potentially trying to utilize us as a form of technology. So I will be diving into that with Emily Moyer next week. I'm looking really forward to sitting down and chatting with her. Other than that, guys, thanks again for being here. Hope you all enjoyed this conversation. I think it was a great, great start to season 3. And I will catch you all next Wednesday. Take care, everybody. Have a good night. Be safe and keep fighting the good.